Let's talk briefly about how you would increase profits with information, because it is with that information that we make little adjustments to increase our sales. Now, whenever you sell a product online, it's rare when you have a hit right out of the box. It probably takes a little while before you can figure out exactly what people want, and then you offer it to them. And you've got to make little adjustments to the sales process. And even if you're reaching your financial or your sales goals, you need to know whether or not you could have done better. Perhaps you had 300 sales or 300 units of sales, but you probably could have had 500 if you had had better information. Because sales figures are really only one part of the equation. Even after you get the conversion rate, the earnings per clicks, and the traffic numbers from the affiliate platforms, they only tell part of the story as to how well you're doing and how well you could have done. Now, in order to know what to change in order to do better, we need to know whether or not people are making positive decisions on their way to buying our product online. And so we have certain questions we want to answer. We want to know for certain if the majority of the people came from an email or did they come from social media. How many people came to our landing page or our bridge page and then decided not to go on? How many people are coming to our site that are brand new, and how many are existing customers or visitors or prospects? You see, we can answer all of these questions and questions like them by having Google Analytics installed on our website and configured at every step of the process for the individuals that visit our sites. But see, Google Analytics requires that we know how to set it up so that we're able to collect the right statistics as well as to get to the right reports. Now, we can show you how to set it up correctly. If you follow the links on this page, then you'll be able to make the adjustments on the right things at the right time that can increase your profits. Hello and welcome. Now, in this course, you are going to receive a tutorial on a basic setup of Google Analytics on your site. Now, we'll start with how to begin with a new Google Analytics account. Now, you'll be connecting your website and or custom page builders or even your WordPress site. Then we'll be walking through some of the specialized features of Google Analytics, such as setting up annotations so that you'll know how your site is performing at a glance. We'll be setting up intelligence events so that you can have emails sent to you when certain things happen on your site. We'll be setting up custom segments so that you can break down different views of your website activity. We'll then be looking at specialized functions of Google Analytics. We'll be talking about how you can export your data for further analysis, as well as setting up custom reports. And we'll also be talking about different integrations that you can do with Google Analytics to extend the functionality. We'll be talking about different templates that have already been created that you can actually use so that you don't have to create them all yourself. And specialized actions such as real-time reporting. And real-time reporting allows you to see what's happening with your site at the moment. And you'll see how to view this through your Google Analytics account. Now, you'll see how to read your reports. And finally, you'll conclude the course with being able to do a basic setup. And of course, when the course is over, you'll be able to do your own basic setup and explain what's happening in your reports. You'll then be set up for a more in-depth and advanced study of everything that Google Analytics has to offer. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now, in this video, we are going to take a look at the navigation and the admin panel for Google Analytics. And when you reach the URL, you're just going to go ahead and click Google Analytics, and this will bring you into the home screen. Now, there are a couple of things that you'll want to take note of. First, the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see 3 dots. You're going to click those dots, and then you're going to click into User Settings. This is where your account identification information is going to be, and account will start with a default date range of 7 days. If you want to look at something more than that, you can look at as much as a month at a glance, but typically you're going to look at 7 days or a week. If you scroll down, you're going to have certain things in your account by default. And that means then that Google Analytics will send you information on all 4 categories, including performance suggestions, feature announcements, feedback, and then other offers from Google. If you don't want to receive any of this information, you can actually untick all of the things that you don't want to receive. Now, email analytics will come direct to your mailbox, and you can get all website data for any website that you have set up for Google Analytics. You can have that set up by default in this area when you start your account. And we'll now go back to the home page, and you're going to see a left side menu here, and some of this left side menu we'll be discussing in this course. We're going to be discussing the reports menu, real-time audience acquisition behavior and conversions. All these are reporting mechanisms that will tell you certain information about your sites and your traffic. The customization menu will give you latitude over how you want to get the information and what you actually want to see. And we'll talk about that in this course also. Discover is additional information and research on Google Analytics. And the admin panel at the very bottom is where you'll be doing most of the work in setting up websites and other factors of your Google Analytics. For example, if you were to look at the properties menu, you'll see that we can pull down this drop-down menu and we'll see all of the sites that we have set up with a particular account. In fact, if we want to create a new property or a new analytics set of reports for a particular website, this is where we will create that new information. Now, it's quite possible that you could be working with a client, and if that's the case, you will actually create an account for their information by going to this account area. And when you want to take a look at different kinds of views, you can actually do that from the view menu and you can create that view. We'll actually discuss that in this course. So you've now seen a basic orientation of the dashboard and how you navigate. And with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now, it's quite possible that you do not have a Google Analytics account connected to the Google email address that you want to use. And if that's the case, you are going to want to set up the Google email address where you want to receive notifications and where you want to hold your records. And to do that, you are going to go back to the Google Analytics account, and you're going to want to make sure that you are signed in to the account where you actually want the new Google Analytics to be associated. And you're going to just go into Google Analytics, and you are going to come to a screen where Google will ask you to sign up, add tracking code, and pretty much learn about your audience. And all you'll need to do is to click this sign up button, and then you'll be taken to the new account setup. Now, when you first sign up, Google is going to ask that you create one account name and that you create a website name. You're going to have to set up at least one website in order to get started. Now, we are going to walk through that process in a separate video, but you can actually write in all of the minimal amount of information that you need, and then Google will actually bring you to the terms of service. You want to read them and then click accept. And one of the reasons why you might set up a different account is because you might want to have different access for different users. And if that's the case, what you're going to do with this second account is you're going to add a user. And you can do that by going to the admin area. And you'll see on this left-hand side that there is a user management link. You're going to click that link. And then you're going to add account users. And what you're going to do is you're going to click this plus button. And then you're going to add in some other email addresses of individuals that are going to have access to the account. Of course, you're going to make sure that they're notified by email, and then you're going to determine whether or not they have certain permissions. If you want to give them permission in order to update the account and edit it, you're going to give them that permission. And then it automatically gives them access to collaborate. Now, you can also decide that you don't want to give them access to the edit, but you want them to be able to collaborate. You can decide not to do that one, and you can give them read-only access. And in some cases where you have client and you want to give them access to their own account so they can see it, but you don't want to have them inside of the one that you're creating for other properties, in this separate account, we can give them the ability to read and analyze when we give them access to the account. We can determine that we want them to be able to manage users, and whatever level of permissions that we have decided to give this person, we can go ahead and then click add. So basically what you have now is you have another account that you can actually use, and you can have other people attached to it, while at the same time you can keep a separate account to manage certain properties and you don't want to have others connected to it. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now in this video, we are going to set up an account for any website, web page, or set of pages that you are going to track. In order to do that, you are going to go to the admin area, and you can reach the admin area by clicking this gear icon. When you get there, you're going to look for this property drop-down menu, and then you're going to click create new property. When you get there, you're typically going to be tracking a website of some kind. So you're going to click website. Now if you are tracking the activity on the mobile app, you're going to want to click this box. But in most cases, you'll be tracking your website activity. Now you're going to write in a name that you're going to see internally, and this is going to be something that you're going to see from inside of the website. So you want to go ahead and write in a website name. Once you do that, you're going to write in the website URL. And the website URL is actually where you're going to put the tracking code for a specific property. So in this case, you can actually write in an entire website, or you can actually put in a website that you're going to be tracking within a subdirectory. So in this case, we're going to put in a website in a subdirectory. Now you're going to be asked the industry category, and you're going to be using this primarily for comparison's sake. So what you're going to do is pick the general area that your site is going to be in, and then you're going to pick a reporting time zone. Now the reporting time zone is going to give the time for your particular site, and you want to be able to follow the activity based on what you know about your time. So you want to go ahead and set this particular site to your time zone. Once you do that, you're going to click the tracking ID. And once you have the tracking ID, you're going to look at this number, and this is going to be the number that you'll be entering in when you are going to be working with WordPress, or you're going to be working with a specific property or a plugin of some kind. You're also going to see that you have a JavaScript code. And that JavaScript code is what you're going to actually copy into the website where you're actually going to be looking. And this will actually measure all of the activity from the level at which you connect the code to everything that happens underneath that code or in every subdirectory afterward. For example, you'll see that you have a website here, you have a subdirectory, and Google Analytics will be set to track from this directory and everything that happens after this subdirectory. Once you have your tracking code, you are going to go to the data collection area. And if you're going to keep up with your audience demographics and their interests, you are going to want to enable this feature, and you'll need to turn this on. Now, if you're going to be doing retargeting with your account and you want to track the effects of that retargeting, you're going to want to turn on remarketing. But in most cases, until you're actually doing it, you can actually leave this turned off. Once you have the advertising reporting features turned on, you're going to click Save. Now, if you go to the left side menu, you're going to scroll down and you'll see a link here that says Referral Exclusion List. And this is pretty important. If you have a lot of traffic coming from a particular site, let's say that you're selling a product on an affiliate network, because that won't be an indication of how much traffic you're actually getting. It's just a referral or it's a pass-through. So if you have any sites that send you lots of visitors, but you're not necessarily looking to track that activity, you want to include them in your referral exclusion list. And the same concept is going to be true if you go to the left side menu and you click the search term exclusion list. If you have a particular term or a way that people find your site or find your location that isn't necessarily going to help you in terms of tracking that information, you want to include that search term in your search term exclusion list. Once you've done that, you're going to come back to your property settings, and you're going to go ahead and turn on your demographic and interest report button, as well as your in-page analytics button. And once you've done that, you can then hit save. And once your content has been saved, you are then ready to connect your Google Analytics account to your website. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. You are now looking at a WordPress website, and you're actually looking at the admin panel. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a connection between Google Analytics and our WordPress website. You're going to do this through an installed plugin. And so if you don't already have a plugin that accepts Google Analytics, you're going to go and you're going to click the Add New link where you see the plugin section. So you can actually click this plugin section. You can then click the Add New button. And what you're going to do when you get there is you're going to click inside of this dialog box. You're just going to write in Google Analytics. Now, WordPress has a number of plugins available. You'll typically want to make sure that you have one that is reviewed and that has a good track record of updating the plugin. Once you find one with good reviews and a fair number of installs, you're going to click the Install Now button. Once you do that, you're going to click Activate, and then you'll see the plugin has been installed in your plugin directory. So what you're going to do now is you want to hover over your settings area, and then you want to go down to the link in the menu. Now, in some cases, you'll see the plugin, depending on which one you install, will actually have its own separate menu someplace on the left side menu, but typically you'll see one in the settings area. So go ahead and click the link that says Google Analytics. Now, in this particular case, you are going to have some configuration that you're going to need to do. We're going to dismiss this notice and save the preference. And then we're going to come into the plugin settings. So you'll notice right away that you're going to be asked for a Google Analytics property ID. Now that's going to refer to the ID that we saw in Google Analytics when we created a website property. So let's go back to Google Analytics right now. And you'll notice that there is a tracking ID. We're going to copy that ID, and then we're going to carry it back to our website. And then we're going to enter the property ID. We're then going to click Enable on our site. Now, once we've enabled analytics, all the other settings are going to be optional if you know that you want to configure them. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to two other settings. We're going to enable Google Analytics in the WordPress admin area, and we're going to disable it for other users. Once we do that, we're going to then click Settings. Now, some plugins will be ready almost immediately. Other plugins expect 24 to 48 hours, as is the case with the plugin that you're watching right here. But typically, if you know your property ID and you can actually enable a few clicks, you can set up Google Analytics with your WordPress website. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. You are now looking at an HTML-based website, and it's quite possible that you'll want to track the activity on this particular page or site. If that's the case, you are going to be able to place your Google Analytics code on the page where your site is. So we're going to go through that process in this video. Now, you are going to need an HTML editor for this particular page in order to place the code. In order to do that, you are going to want to find one of the free editors or use the one that you have. We are going to look for one called NVU by going to Google. And if we go to Google and we just type in NVU, it's typically going to be the first result that will come up. It's at nvu.com. You're going to want to go to that site. You'll then want to either download NVU or Composer. Either one will serve as an effective HTML editor. Now, once you have NVU open, you are going to then open the index file of the web page you are going to be tracking. Once you have the page open, you're going to go to your source code. Once you do that, you're going to come back to Google Analytics, and you're going to pick up the tracking code that you are going to be using for this particular site. And we're going to copy all of this code, and then we're going to go back to our HTML site in order to paste the code. Now, the code should go someplace in the header area, typically. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this code in the header area. Once we do that, we're going to click the Save button, and then our site will be ready to be uploaded to our server. We're then going to take the website files and we're going to drag and drop them into the directory where we're going to be installing the site. As you can see, even though we pasted the code, the form of the website doesn't change, and now we're ready to track from this particular website. If you're going to have multiple one-page websites, you're going to want to make sure that Google Analytics is actually placed on each and every one of these pages if you want to track the activity. Now, one thing that we'll want to do is we'll want to make sure that the code is actually working. And one of the ways that we can do that is we can go to the dashboard and we can look at the real-time statistics in Google Analytics. And if we go to the real-time statistics, you'll see that there was one page view just 8 minutes ago, and that was when we were actually visiting the site. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. When you are adding Google Analytics to a WordPress website, typically you will add the code using a plugin. However, you may be using a custom page builder or membership script. And when that is the case, there's typically a specific operation for you to use in order to get Google Analytics installed. In this particular case, we're going to look at OptimizePress, which is a WordPress page builder. Now, your page builder might be different, but you will want to check the instructions to find out exactly how to work with your particular theme or page builder. So let's go inside of this dashboard. And once we get there, we're going to go inside of OptimizePress. OptimizePress actually has its own menu and dashboard. We're going to go inside of the dashboard. When you get there, you're actually going to see that OptimizePress has a section called Analytics and Tracking. You're going to go inside of that area. And once you get there, OptimizePress gives you some instructions. So that typically you're going to be placing that code before the header tag, but in this case, OptimizePress gives you a location to actually put your code. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back, we're going to grab the code, and we're going to place the entire code inside of the Analytics and Tracking area for Google Analytics. Now, if you don't have a property already, you're going to create one, and you're going to do that by coming to the admin area. You're then going to come to this drop-down menu, and you're going to click Create New Property. And then you're going to give this property a name. You're going to put your website URL in, and then you're also going to define your industry category. You're going to set up your reporting time, and then you're going to click Get Tracking ID. So once you have the tracking code, you're going to grab all the tracking code, and you're going to copy it. And you're going to head back to your website. And when you're at your site, you're going to place the code inside of the tracking area. And again, every page builder and every site builder is going to be slightly different, but typically there will always be a section for you to place the Google Analytics code on a particular page or series of pages. Now, in this particular case, you are actually going to be able to use this code throughout the entire site through this theme. Once you've done that, then all you'll need to do is click Save Settings. And then your code will then be added to your custom page builder. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now, it's quite possible that you want to take note of when a specific event happened so that you'll be able to measure it against the activity that you're seeing in your Google Analytics account. And Google Analytics has given you a tool inside of your system to help you with that process. And it's called Creating Annotations. Now, if you go to your Audience menu and you look at the overview for a particular site, that's what we are looking at right now, you will notice that there is activity on certain days. Now, we could mark a specific day when an activity happened so that we might be able to look at our chart or look at our data and see that there was an effect to what actually happened. In order to do that, we would then go to this middle bar and we would click this arrow, and then we would click Create New Annotation. Once we create the annotation, we're actually going to write in the actual activity. Now, we can decide whether or not we want this visibility to be shared or private. Once we do that, we can then click Save. We can then notate this by clicking the star. so that then the star will actually show up on our overview chart. Now there is another way to set up an annotation, and you can actually set one up for something that's going to happen in the future. And you can do that by going to your admin panel. And once you've actually picked the website that you're going to want to annotate, you're going to come to this right side, going to scroll down, and you're going to click Annotations. What you're then able to do is to click New Annotation. You can make sure that this annotation will be starred, and then you can actually pick your date and what the event is actually going to be. Now again, if you want the rest of your team or anyone else that's looking at the account to actually see your annotation, you're going to click Shared. If you don't, you can actually click Private, and it'll only show up then in your account. Once you actually have the annotation, you can click Create Annotation. You can then go back and create another annotation in the very same way if you want to mark the end of something or you want to mark the beginning of something new. Annotations are a way of your being able to track activity based on events that happen in your business. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Once you have Google Analytics set up on your website, you can have the system alert you to certain activity on your site. Maybe there's been a spike in traffic, or maybe there's been a decrease in traffic. Maybe there has been an unusual amount of activity to a particular thank you page where you have a download. When those cases happen, you can actually have Google Analytics send you a custom alert. And in this video, we're going to show you how to create those custom alerts. What you'll want to do first is you'll want to go to your admin panel. And then when you go all the way over to the right side, you'll see that there is a link there for custom alerts. Now when you click the custom alerts, what you're going to do is you're going to click New Alert. And then you're going to give your alert a name. Now you can have this set up for one or all of your sites. And what you're going to do is you're going to then decide the time period. So you might say on a specific day you want this alert to happen and the email to be sent. So you would actually then set up your email and then include any other emails that you want to have see the alert. Perhaps you have an outsourcer or you have someone you're working with or partner and you want them to get the email also. You can also set up your mobile device in order to receive a text message when the alert takes place. Now we'll need to go and take a look at the alert conditions to configure the actual email. Now what we can do is we can decide on what kind of traffic it'll actually give us. We can have it to be all traffic, or we can narrow it down by any of these menus. We can alert when certain events happen with either sessions, with users, with page views, with a bounce rate, with an average session duration, or new sessions. In this particular case, we're going to say that we want something to happen when there is a specific number of page views. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say that we want this alert to happen if the page views are going to increase by more than, we're going to say by 100 visitors, when a certain comparison is made. Now we can have the previous day, we can have the same day in the previous week, or the same day in the previous year. We could say that if our page views happened on the previous day, we want to have an alert sent to us. And so once we have the alert set up, what we're going to do is we're going to click Save Alert. And of course, once we have one alert set up, we can set up as many alerts as we like according to what we actually want to see. So again, all we'll need to do is we'll need to give the alert a name, but the most important thing will be what we want to actually see. Maybe we want to actually see if there is a bounce rate increasing by a certain value. And maybe perhaps we might say that we want the comparison time will be the previous day. So again, there's a lot of flexibility where you can actually have your Google Analytics send you an email when something is happening that you'll want to take note of inside of your website system. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now, Google Analytics will allow you to look at certain websites and notice the behavior of certain segments of that website. So for example, if we go to our admin page, and that's where we are right now, we can look at a specific site that we have under Analytics, and then we can go to a portion of the site called Segments. When we get to the Segments area, we can actually create a certain segment. And when we click New Segment, we can then name our segment, and we can decide on certain parameters that we actually want to view. For example, we can decide that we want to see a certain age range. We can decide we want to see a certain gender. We can decide that we want them to make sure that they're speaking a specific language. And we can also determine that the individual has to be in a certain geographical location. We can go further with segmentation and determine that the individual is using a mobile tablet or a mobile device of some kind. We can then add in behavior segmentation pieces, and this is the behavior that they engage in while on our site. We can decide we want that segment to have come a specific way. And we can go through some advanced conditions and sequences. However, what you're trying to do is you're trying to determine a specific segment of your traffic and what they're doing when they come to your site by tracking them separately based on your parameters. Now, once you have all the parameters in that you're going to want to look at, you're then going to want to click Save. And then you'll have your first segment that Google Analytics will be tracking. And we can actually decide on new segments to break down our analysis further. Now, once you have your custom segments set up, Google Analytics will then start tracking this data specifically according to your parameters. And it will track it in addition to the more general information that it does by default. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. As you begin to collect data on your website activity, you will be able to look at that website activity on your left side menu in various ways. For example, you may be looking at your data in terms of its audience. In the case, you'll get a report that looks something like this. When that happens, you will then be able to take all of that data, export it to another program for more analysis and display. And the way that you'll do that is you'll go to the top and you'll see that there is a button there that says Export. You're going to click that button. You will have the opportunity to export the data in terms of the PDF format, Google Sheets format, Microsoft Excel, or a CSV file for more number crunching. So in this particular case, we're going to create a CSV file from the audience view. You will then save that information to your hard drive. Then the data will be available in actual data points inside of your CSV file. Now, if you want data points for a different period of time, you are actually going to go to the calendar app here, and then you're going to set that period based on the specifics that you lay out. Once you've chosen the data points, you're going to click Apply. You're going to see your data change, and then you can then export a different report for the next period of time that you are actually looking for. And then you'll be able to save that period of time to your hard drive. And you can do that for any way that you choose to look at the actual data. If you want to look at the data in terms of an hourly period, you can also extract that data in the very same way. So what you'll want to do is to determine what you're actually looking for and what gives you decision-making information. You'll determine the date, and then you'll export the data into a format that will allow you to do the analysis. Again, you can do that with any report on the left side menu. You'll notice that if the report is changed to a device report, you'll have data that you can actually set a period of time, apply it, and once again, you can then export the data based on the way that you choose to look at it. In this particular case, we'll choose weekly. And then we'll export that data into another CSV file. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Now, once you begin collecting data on a regular basis for your websites, you may discover that there is a specific way of looking at your business that will give you the maximum amount of information. And when that's the case, you may want to create a custom report. And to do that, you are going to go to the customization button, and then you're going to click Custom Reports. When you get to the menu, you're going to click New Custom Report, and then you're going to give that custom report a title. Now, Google Analytics will allow you to create a multifaceted report, and you can actually do that by creating different tabs with different sets of information. You can actually write in a different tab, and once you do that, you're going to just click Add Report Tab, and you'll notice then that your report will then be in one tab inside of the creation screen. You can then create another tab. Once you've created that, you'll then click Add Report Tab. So now what you'll need to do is you'll need to customize each one of the reports to give you the information that you actually want. Now you can create your report so that it's going to be one set of data in a report. You can have multiple sets of data in a report in a flat table, or you can lay out that data geographically using the map. Now, in this particular case, we're just going to use the Explorer report where we can drill down into the information. And whenever you have a custom report, there are two parameters you're going to need to set. You're going to need to set the quantitative measurement, and that's the metric. And so you can choose a quantitative measurement that you actually want to determine. For example, maybe you want to determine how much time on the page a particular person spends. Then the dimension, you can determine how your metric is categorized. So you'll add a dimension. And as you're determining which dimensions you're going to add, if you want to know how they're actually defined, if you hover over the question mark, it'll actually give you some description on exactly what that dimension is going to be. Optionally, you can add in a filter, and you can do that in any way that you want. For example, if you want to filter out a particular type of social information, you can actually do that. And finally, when we create this report, we can actually create it based on one view, which is one of our website properties, or we can choose to do it for all of our website properties. In this particular case, we're going to do this for all of our website properties, and we're going to click Save. Once you actually save the report, you'll see it on your dashboard, and you can then export the data into another program if you want to do further analysis. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, Google Analytics integrates with 4 different Google services: YouTube, Google Search Console, Google AdWords, and Google AdSense. Now, of the 4, Google AdSense and Google AdWords will not necessarily be used by every analytics user. More likely, though, there will be more widespread use with Search Console and YouTube. So in this video, we're going to show you how to integrate Google Analytics with those 2 services. First, if you go to one of your website properties and you actually go and you look at the acquisition tab, you're going to see something that says landing pages, and if you click that tab, it's going to give you a message saying that you'll want to set up Google Search Console data sharing. Now, once you have decided that you are going to integrate these 2 services, you can go ahead and click that setup button. Now, in order to integrate these 2 services, you will already need to have Google Search Console installed on your website. If you have it installed, you'll be able to scroll down, and you'll see that there is a button here that says Adjust Search Console. You can go ahead and click that button. And you'll see here that Search Console will have a message saying that if your site has been verified, you can add it. You'll go ahead and click the Add button. What you're going to do is you're going to select the site that you're going to be adding, and then you're going to click Save. Google will give you a message saying that you're going to save a new association. You'll click OK. Your site will then be associated in Analytics with Search Console. Now what we'll need to do is we'll go and we'll associate your Google Analytics account with your YouTube account. And to do that, you'll need to create a new property, and you'll need to create it for your YouTube account. Once you've set up your parameters, you're going to click Get Tracking ID. Then you're going to pick up your tracking ID. Now you're going to head to your YouTube account. Once you are inside of your Creator Studio, you are then going to need to go to your channel area. Then you'll need to go to the advanced link. And then if you scroll all the way down, you'll notice that there is a space for your Google Analytics property ID. You're going to go ahead and paste in your tracking ID. Once you do that, you'll then hit save. Then your Google Analytics account will then begin tracking information for your YouTube account. And you have now integrated your services with Google Analytics. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now in this video, we are going to be discussing using Google search templates in order to create custom reports and custom views. Now, if you go to any search engine, in particular the Google search engine, and you type in Google Analytics Solutions Gallery, you're going to see a result at the very first spot, and you're going to click that result. That's going to bring you into crowdsourced solutions from other people that have actually created different ways of viewing Google Analytics as well as working with the data. Now, if you have a particular solution that you're looking for, you can actually write that solution into the search bar to find out if there is an existing solution or view that has been created. And when you write your search result in, you'll see all of the reports that are going to be available to you, as well as reviews of that report and any comments from those that have actually used them. You can also take a look at the most popular reports, as they're likely to be well reviewed as well as high performing. There's also a recommended section, and you'll see that section at the bottom. Google divides its view of the solutions into dashboards, custom reports, and top segments. Now you'll see here that there is one bundle called the new Google Analytics User Starter Bundle. And you can go ahead and click that bundle. And you can actually import that bundle into your series of reports. You can decide to take any view, or you can select a specific view. Once you've done that, you'll click Create. You'll then see the new custom reports set up inside of the view that your account had by default. So to find different reports that have already been created and views that have already been created, you can use those that are already in existence, created by individuals that have been using them, so that you won't have to create custom segments or reports by scratch. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, one feature of Google Analytics is that you can actually monitor real-time statistics on your site. And to do that, you are actually going to go to the home page inside of your Google Analytics account. When you do that, you'll see your dashboard, and then you're going to click Real Time. Now, you'll start with the overview page. The overview page will give you real-time information for whichever site you have selected, and it'll give you page views and active pages by default. It'll actually tell you what's happening at a particular location. Now, in this particular case, if you are tracking information in a local area or you are a local business, then this will really help you to be able to determine what's happening in a particular part of the world or a particular part of your country at one time. You can also check traffic sources. So, for example, if you want to know what's happening with your mobile users at this particular moment, or with your computer users, you'll be able to see that with this real-time data. You can actually determine what's happening with a particular piece of content. So maybe you just released a particular blog post, or you put something together that people are reading right now. Well, you can actually watch their reaction to that piece, and you'll be able to determine whether or not it's successful in what it's supposed to be doing. You can determine the success of an event. And an event can be anything that you determine as a one-time occurrence or something that you want to measure. You can actually measure that event in Google Real Time. And finally, you can also measure your conversions. Now, in this particular case, you'll want to make sure that you have your goals set up. You want to make sure that you have pages set up that will determine whether or not people are reaching your thank you page, so that you'll know whether or not you're actually converting your particular offer. You can monitor that in real time in Google Analytics. So this one section of Google Analytics, the real-time section, gives you information about what's happening on your sites and properties at this time. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we are going to be discussing how you can set up goals so that you can tell if your site visitors are taking the action that you want them to take when they're on your site. Now to set up your goals, you're going to go to the Admin tab, and then you're going to come to the right side panel, and you're going to click Goals. Then what you're going to do is you're going to start by clicking New Goal, and then initially you're going to see a number of templates. So the setup will already be basically done for you for these kinds of goal setups. So in this particular case, if you want to know whether or not your site visitors are actually following through and making a payment, you can use the existing template for that goal setup. You can use it for reservations or making an appointment or any of these other factors. These are preset templates that Google will give you in order for you to set up your goals. Now, the other way to set up goals will be to set up a custom goal. And when you do that, you're going to click Continue. And you're going to give that goal a description. And you're going to ID this as your first goal. Now, there are 4 types of goals that you can actually set. One is whether or not a person actually makes it to a particular page. That's a destination goal. Another is a duration goal. In other words, does a person spend a certain amount of time on a particular page? The third is number of pages on your site that a person has visited, and that is a page or screen per session goal. And the other is an event, such as did someone play a video or did they take some kind of action. Whenever you decide which goal that you are going to set, you can actually check the box and click Destination. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to use one of the existing templates for setting a payment. And that means then that we'll click New Goal. And then we'll determine whether or not someone has actually made a payment, and we'll set that as our goal. And we're going to click Continue. Now, to determine that, we're going to reason that a person had to have made our thank you page. And we're going to set that as our destination goal, and we're going to click Continue. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place in here our thank you page, because if a person makes our thank you page, we'll know then that they have made the payment. Now Google Analytics will track the monetary value of every time somebody actually reaches this page by coming to our site. We can turn this on by putting in a dollar amount. Now if we want to track activity through an entire funnel, if we are requiring our visitors to go through all of the steps of a particular funnel, we can actually set that up in this section, and we can place it there by creating steps. So at the first page of the funnel, we can create a step, we can create a second step, and a third step. However many steps we have in the funnel, we can determine how much of our content that our visitors are experiencing before they drop out of the process. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn off the funnel for now, and then we're going to click Save this goal. And so now we have set our first goal. So all you'll need to do is to go to this goal area, determine whether or not you're going to use one of the templates. If you're not, use one of the custom templates, and then decide what kind of goal that you want to set and how you want to track it. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now in this video, we're going to talk about the third-party applications that are available for you to use with Google Analytics. Now, if you come to the Google Analytics front page, you'll notice that there is a link at the top for partners. You should go ahead and click that link. When you get to this page, you'll see Expert Help is here. You're going to click the link that says Google Analytics Certified Partners. And then you'll see that Google Analytics offers a list of partners and solutions that they have vetted and determined worthy of a mention on their own page. Now you can find partners You can be a partner or you can find a third-party solution. Now, in this particular case, since we're not looking for service providers to help us with Google Analytics, but we might want to find an effective solution. So we're going to go ahead and click Find a Solution. And you'll notice that each of the solutions have certain categories for use with Google Analytics, and they also have pricing associated with them. Now, if you're not necessarily looking to pay for the service, or you'd like to get some level of the service before you actually pay, you're going to start by sorting for free and then apply the filter. And what you'll see then is you'll see a number of solutions available to you, and you'll then want to sort again for the kind of solution that you actually want. For example, perhaps you're looking for an e-commerce solution. If that's the case, you're going to apply that filter. And so now what we have is all of the e-commerce based solutions that come with some level of free or is entirely free in terms of their connection to Google Analytics. Now again, what you'll need to do is to make sure that you determine what it is that you actually want from your third-party app or partners. Perhaps if you want social analytics, you apply the filter, you'll again find those that are already free. You can actually determine those that are paid also. And basically, what you have is you have a list of companies that have decided to partner with Google to make their analytics results more robust and to find new customers. So if one of these applications fit what you are trying to do, you may want to try the free level of their solution. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. Now in this video, we are going to talk about the audience page and the overview. Now, when you come to the home screen, you'll get a general sense as to what's happening with your site, the one that you have selected. You can get a more detailed picture of your site visitors, though, by clicking on the audience link. And when you click on the audience link, you'll want to click the overview. Now, the overview will give you at a glance everything that you need to know about your audience without having to drill down. Now, you'll want to first select the dates that you want to keep track of. For example, you can set this for a particular month, just as you would any other report, and apply it. And once you've done that, then you'll be able to look at each session and you'll be able to look at the report to determine the health of your audience. Now, you can look at this in any number of ways. You can look at this based on the hours. You can look at this based on the days or even at a particular week. The audience overview looks at sessions, and so this is a visit that a user makes to your site and stays there, either looks around or leaves. And as you go down, you'll get an overview of what these sessions look like over the course of the time period that you have selected. So for example, in this case, for this site, there were 2,401 sessions, or 2,401 times when someone visited the site and stayed there for some length of time. Now, not every one of those people were new users. In fact, there were only 1,237 users. That means then that some of these users came to the site more than once. While they were on the site, they viewed a total number of 4,101 pages. And so you're getting a glimpse of what is happening on a particular site at a particular month. You'll also see that on average, when someone comes to the site, they view 1.71 pages or between 1 and 2 pages and stay on those pages approximately 2 minutes. Now, there is a bounce rate. And the bounce rate is the case where someone comes to the site and they leave right away after a short period of time. You'll also see during a particular period of time how many people actually came to the site for the first time or generated a new session. And you'll see that not only in the chart, but you'll see that in this number on your audience menu. If you scroll down in the menu, you'll get an overview of the language spoken by the individuals that come to your site inside of the demographics area. Now, you can also change that demographics area to a country designation. You can see where most of your visitors will come from. You can also break it down in terms of city. And you can get a sense for how many of your visitors come from a particular city. Once again, because this is an overview, you have several instances where this data is in individual parts of the audience site, but you're given all of this at a glance. So you'll be able to tell how many of your people actually use a specific browser, how many use a particular operating system, and then what kind of internet provider that they use. And finally, you can get information on the mobile devices they use. So for example, you'll be able to find out how many people use Android versus iOS versus Windows Phone, what service provider they use, as well as what their screen resolution is. Now, all of this can be helpful information because it will give you an idea of what you should be preparing in terms of content for the individuals that come to your site. And as you start to see more people interact with your site, you'll be able to give them more of what they want when they come to visit. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, one of the areas within your site properties in Google Analytics that you'll want to make sure it's enabled is going to be the demographics and interest reports. Now, if you enable this, that means that Google will start to collect this information and show it to you during your summary reports. However, you must enable it because, again, it is not enabled by default. So you'll come to your property settings for your particular site. When you scroll down through those settings, you're just going to tick this to on. And once you do that, you want to make sure then that you click Save. That means then that when you start to collect information, you go back to the home screen and you are looking at your audience menu. In particular, you are looking at the overview. You're going to have certain information that you'll be taking, and then if you were to go into the interest area and you were to click the overview, what you would see is that you're going to need to enable the advertising features to support this. And so we're going to click this button. Then Google Analytics will tell us that demographics and interest reports will be collecting and that we'll start to get this information within 24 hours. Now, also within the audience menu will be your geography. When we move into the language panel, we can take a deeper look into any of these numbers. For example, we can take a look at the English, US. We can go back and look at any of the other languages. And we can also take a look at the location page. And the location page, we can do a deeper dive into any particular country that has results. For example, if we chose the United States, we'd be able to break down our visitors by state within the United States. Now, interest and geography are only two of the submenus that you actually have. You also have behavior, technology, mobile, and benchmarking and custom. So all of these will give you different views of your information. However, geography as well as interest give you a picture of who is coming to your site and why they may be coming. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. In conclusion, you now know how to do a basic setup for Google Analytics for yours or a client's business. Now, whether you have a WordPress, HTML, or a page builder site, you can now set up your website to track activity. You've learned that the specialized features give you leverage to create your own reports and views of your information. You've also learned that integrations help you to extend the functionality of Google Analytics and give you even more leverage. And of course, you can now access real-time reporting and analyze it on the fly to know exactly what's happening on your websites at any point in time. You can now read and understand your data, customize it, and even export it if you feel it's necessary. And of course, now you're ready to look deeper at the functions as you begin to use them more every day. Now, all you really need to do is to take a walkthrough of all of the basic principles you've learned so that they will stick with you. And with that, thanks, and I'll see you either in another video or in another course.